Good morning, everybody. Liam Murphy here, going to make some underdog pick'em slips, maybe even fit in a Kincaid victory lap or two. All right, I am Liam. Every Friday, we make two pick five slips on Underdog Fantasy, searching through the lobby, trying to build some winners. We hit our pick five 2 weeks ago. This past week, one of our slips was tanked by. We took the under on Jahmyr Gibbs scoring a touchdown, which was going awesome until the Lions scored a garbage time touchdown down 35 points. So that's about how last week went. But, we're off of a pretty awesome night for me. The Kincaid show is finally here. Took a little bit for other people to understand, but, we did it. We'll get to that after. We're gonna search through the lobby, make our pick fives, and then if time, might victory lap a little bit. Might look at some best ball ownership things. I looked at the advance rate yesterday and then today. Kincaid before the game was advancing at he was advancing at 16.67%. And then after the game, I left my water, foolish me. He was up to 25%. So, nice little bump there. Guys, I'm going to grab my water while people roll in. In the meantime, please smash that subscribe button. Be right back. Oh, jokes. The water was under my chair. Huge water. All right. So first thing I want to do before we look at some slips is just pull up the weather. Just take a peek, see if anything crazy is happening. We're also going to have open the Fantasy Life utilization game log. Sites like this, they're not the only one, but we like Fantasy Life. Would have been key for getting on Khalil Shakir yesterday, for example, which I did in Showdown, where you could see he was up to 43% of the routes in week 7. And Hardy was at 22%. And so I just took this as a leap of faith that, hey, I think he's going to be the de facto 11. Now, sometimes players can go from 43 back down to 10, and, another guy can go, but it's a good resource. Weather. Looks like New England, Miami, a little bit of wind. Nothing here, nothing here. Not a lot of weather to care about. So, let's go through these bad boys. We like to go through, speak about each one, and then circle back and make some picks. Sometimes the lines adjust on us when we say something profound, but. So this Dallas defense is injured a little bit, making Stafford lines interesting. I wanted to say something too, that in the past we've seen like a Tutu Atwell receiving line, and then we've seen the Tutu Atwell receiving / rushing line. And I was like, oh, hey, you might as well take the rushing one. That's not always correct, because keep in mind, with a rushing attempt, you can get negative yards. So that is part of the reason why Underdog offers the receiving and rushing. So nothing really sticking out here. Dallas off the bye is interesting. The Rams have allowed very few touchdowns through the air. Actually, like the lowest percentage in the league. So that makes some Pollard ones interesting. At the same time, Tony's been kind of disappointing, and you can just flat out bet he doesn't score a touchdown. Kind of like the Gibbs bet. So we'll keep this in mind. The over on the receptions has gone over in 2 games. In a competitive game, I could see him getting 4 more catches. Something you have to wonder is like, okay, what's more likely? Him getting 4 catches or him getting 3 catches for 25 yards? Because you got the receiving here too. Keep it moving here. It's a good spot for Jake Ferguson. Spotty usage, but Rams can be scored on by tight ends. Keep it moving. It's a pretty low line for Lawrence. I think this Pitt defense is a little bit better than it was at the start of the year. There's also a lot of good data out there on like 2 high defenses versus single high defenses and what type of receivers produce in those. Basically, in 2 high, that's where you see like last night, Tampa runs zone, usually with 2 high, I think. And so you saw a lot of Gabe Davis, you saw a lot of Kincaid, and not as much Diggs. Buffalo also runs zone with 2 high safeties, even 3 safeties. And so you saw Godwin get there, and Mike Evans really wasn't doing anything until late in the game. So basically, alpha wide receivers against single high and secondary pieces against 2 high seems to be a pattern. I'm definitely tempted by the ETN things. What I think happened with the Rams versus Pitt last week is they said, hey, we're facing this team that has a good pass rush. We do not want to let Stafford get blown up. And so they had a bunch of rushing attempts, like 16 to Royce Freeman, 16 to Henderson. If ETN is getting anywhere close to that against a bad run D, I like the over on his rushing yards. Don't hate the touchdown one either, but I think I'd prefer the rushing yards. And I think I like Ridley in this spot. Pitt is a single high team. So keep those in mind. Keep moving. If I was going to take any line, maybe some Deontay unders is tempting. This is a legit Jacksonville defense. I mean, just like betting under on Allen Robinson and praying he doesn't get like Baltimore game usage seems pretty good. Got 1 target last week, 2 targets versus Houston, randomly 9 targets versus Baltimore. Tempting stuff. William pointing out he likes the Kirk one with the splash targets, brought up by Hayden Winks, popularized by Pat Crane. Washington runs a lot of man D, and Jack Del Rio is an idiot, their defensive coordinator. So that makes both the over on A.J. Brown tempting and on Devonta Smith. Now, the only wrinkle here is this is a divisional game, and it's the second time they play. Now, most people out there would think, hey, Washington, you just got absolutely destroyed by Philadelphia. Are they going to change things? Are you going to try to take away A.J. Brown? Smith did get above this number against Washington as well. Pretty sure. So tempted on both of them. A.J. Brown is just such an alpha. Maybe like Logan Thomas over, I'm tempted on. We'll keep it moving. The receiving line is pretty low on Ramondre for a guy who got targets of 6 and 5 in back-to-back weeks. Mostert line's tempting. The chalk running backs for the slate will be guys like Kamara, ETN, Brees Hall. So like those are some guys I've definitely be tempted with some overs. So the real question in this Saints game is how competitive is it going to be? Because the Saints in like a competitive game versus a non-competitive game are going to do different things in my mind. You can see as long as Kamara dump-offs is part of the run game, I like the over on passing attempts. Back-to-back passing attempts of 50 and 55. Now, these are games that the Saints were pushed in. If Indy cannot keep up, maybe we won't see that as much. But a little correlation with like over and pass attempts to Carr and higher on receptions to Kamara. I mean, the Kamara one is just like, they're not great catches. And Kamara is not doing a lot with them, but he's just getting so much volume. Josh Downs is the one I'd be tempted for Indy, where remember with Kirk lighting up the Saints, you don't want to pick on Marshall Lattimore. They get targeted a lot more in the slot. So higher on some Josh Downs receiving yards is tempting. He's got some vertical elements to his game, right? Like he's a lot of short ADOT, but he also can get downfield. So, and this is one where it's like he's no rushing attempts, so definitely not going to take the rushing plus receiving. But I don't mind some correlated like Downs, Kamara, Carr. Jets at Giants. The Brees ones are just the ones I would take. Hard to say which line I like best. I think all of them are live to hit. Also, some lowers on Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook, like, maybe wants to get traded, so you could we could take some lowers and be like, he sucks. Or we could say, hey, maybe they want to feature him to trade him. I don't really ever buy that narrative, though. It's pretty weak, you know? And also, he might just be inactive. Like, a lot of times, teams just make players inactive because they don't want the guy to get hurt. They want to trade him. But who the hell is going to trade for Dalvin Cook? I think Conklin overs are like in play to the end of time. I wish they offered a Hyatt one. This Jets defense actually does give up some like deep catches. So I would have been tempted by Hyatt. I'm not as tempted by Slayton. So Green Bay, you really beat on the ground. The issue is if we go to running back and we go to the Vikings. So really what we want to be looking at is rush attempt percentage. And what's not great for Madison is he got 40% of the rush attempts, and Cam Akers got 50% in their game against the 49ers. So even though he's playing more snaps, he's not getting a lot of the rushing attempt pie, where it's like Denver, this would have led me to play Javonte over Jaleel, even though I liked them similarly last week, is even though they're playing similar snaps, the rush attempts, 63% for Javonte, 50%. It was like, okay, they're the one they want him to run the ball. So, so even though it's a good matchup for running backs, it makes it tough to pick the Madison one. And honestly, like if we think this is a trend or something that could grow, he's so random. He just popped up for 48% of rush attempts. But, like they won the game. It doesn't seem like that's a random thing. That makes the over on Cam Akers rushing attempts pretty tempting. Good spot, low number. And maybe, honestly, the lower on Madison one. Like the correlation of higher and lower is tempting because you can get there on both there, And it's not like Madison could be shadow round at any point. It's just like 20% of the rushing attempts. So let's keep it moving. Receiving game's hard to play. Like close your eyes and you can do Addison and Hawk overs, I think. But it's not the best spot. Man, Love was so brutal, man. And Aaron Jones is still not like practicing him full. Watson's healthy, which makes it tempting, but I wish that we got a little bit of discount on the line. To move along to the maybe grossest game of the week. No one missed any Kincaid victory laps. We're gonna look at some best ball things after we make some pick 'em slips. Will Levis is playing this game. This could be a historic rush rate game. Bijan off the headache is probably like I'm a little concerned for Bijan long term if he has a history of migraines. I don't blame him for not playing, but that makes I guess like receiving yards is my favorite way to play it. The Titans are also like fire sailing their team in some degree at the trade deadline. So they could just like rule a bunch of guys inactive. Like the Bucs didn't have Vita Vea last night. Against a vulnerable pass defense, the Pitts overs are pretty tempting. He's never going to be a high volume guy, but he is a deep A dot guy. Matt Collins, man, is 5.5. How many snaps did Matt Collins play? This might be a freebie because he's just not going to play. He ran 11% of the routes. That is low. Keep it moving. So maybe the rush attempts on Henry's tempting. Don't really see Atlanta like blowing them out and stopping them from doing that. I quite like this spot for Stroud. It's a good spot for the run game of Houston, but Houston can't really run. And this is a really high line for Pierce, who there's a lot of rumbling with Houston that Singletary's overtaken him. Like if we go to these game logs, Singletary had 40% of the rushing attempts in week 6, and Pierce only had 43%. And then they had their bye. So the question is this like, and Singletary had 52% of the snaps, by the way, running 50% of the routes to Pierce's 23%. So the question is, was this a one-game blip? Is this signs to come? Was Pierce banged up? Who knows? What I do know is this is like 64.5 for Pierce. It's pretty high. I definitely want to read up on Houston's O-line health because I know they had a bunch of injuries. If they get guys back, that's going to help a lot for them. Wish we had some Singletary lines. Wish we had some just Pierce receiving lines. If I had to choose one, it would be lower on the combined rushing plus receiving because there's a lot of ways he could fail there. It could be Singletary. He just gets no reception work and has to do it on the ground. Carolina's off the bye too, so maybe they got a little bit better in the run game. Nico, I think, should be chalked. Is a great spot for Nico. And I like Dell too. Not brave enough to take any overs on Carolina. There is some weirdness between Chuba and Sanders, but you're not getting a discount on any pick'ems there. Maybe some lower on Adam Thielen, and we can scream our Sklansky bucks as he goes for 150 receiving yards. Keep it moving here. Okay, so PJ Walker seems official here. Njoku had great usage last game. It's a good spot for Elijah Moore too, I think. Seattle has a bunch of banged up guys. Ken Walker is banged up and Lockett is banged up, but we're not getting any lines hung for anyone but Metcalf. So we're not getting any JSN lines. Betting the Lockett lower doesn't really help you if he doesn't play because it just gets voided. No Charbonnet either, who will be like pretty chalky in DFS land if Walker's ruled out. Keep it moving here. Shorting Joe Mixon is a stock I'll short for like ever, except when they play the Bills because the Bills are just giving so many targets to running backs with their zone scheme. Chase over. I think it's a good spot. Off the bye, healthier Burrow. We just saw Jordan Addison light up the secondary, although it's kind of fluky, and I don't think the 49ers are going to defend Cincinnati the same and Chase the same way they defended Addison. Higgins lower. Higgins has been like one of the worst wide receivers in the NFL this year. Now the question is that him? Is that Burrow? Is that a combo of things? But literally, like the advanced data is not liking Higgins. Even with Purdy being rolled out, this is like a pretty smash spot for Ayuk. Cincinnati gives up a lot of targets to the middle of the field or the splash zone targets, and Ayuk eats on those. No Debo still, I think. And, I mean, Sam Darnold is probably not a huge downgrade. Just like, remember those Sam Darnold games last year, Carolina? Like, he supported DJ Moore in some games. So Ayuk over, I'm tempted about. Probably getting a little discount, too. Kansas City side. Pacheco's just, like, not that good. So shorting him is always tempting. The Kelsey over seems reasonable. Anyone got the Taylor Swift report with Kelsey? Sky Moore unders, copy and paste to the end of time. Rashee Rice overs. I think it's exciting for Buffalo and Kansas City that they're getting these secondary pieces emerging. For the Bills, it's Kincaid. And for the Chiefs, it's Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice is an athletic freak. Let's pull up the game report for Kansas City. So week 7, man, like you gotta make these Sky Moore routes go to 0. With Justin Watson out, Rashee Rice was up to 65% of the routes, 20% target per route run, compared to Sky Moore's 61 and 11. Tony was all the way down to 17%. Justin Ross is going to jail, I think. Beat up his girlfriend, allegedly. McCole Harmon also probably going to grow his role a little bit. And MVS was at a near season high in routes as well. I don't hate the spot for MVS either. He just needs to catch the ball once to beat 15.5 receiving yards. On Denver's side, Kansas City plays a lot of like press coverage. I think Sutton's been running really hot with like touchdowns. His usage is not fantastic or anything. Judy got a little banged up at the end of that game last week. There's been a lot of rumblings about him being traded. Baltimore, Arizona, pretty smash spot for the Ravens. Lamar to score a rushing touchdown, not the worst thing in the world. The over on fantasy points, I don't mind either. Gus had a pretty strong usage in that game. Let's see here. 64% of the rush attempts, 50% of the snaps. Hill played the other 50% and ran 64% of the routes. No targets, though. Keaton Mitchell got in there for 4% of the snaps. So the over on Gus rushing yards is tempting. Just seems like a game Baltimore can be salting away late, and they like to do that. On the Arizona side, was hoping that this line would be lower for Trey McBride. Good underlying usage numbers for him. Tough matchup. Like, I don't know how I could take a Trey over versus Michael Wilson when Michael Wilson's probably a better talent and has a lower number. And those are the night games. All right, so let's make 2 pick 5s and then talk about best ball and then get out of here. Just gonna let this wash over me. We're gonna refresh them because the lines refresh sometimes. Okay. So let's make the running back only slip first. We're going to take lower on the Pierce combined, higher on the Akers rushing yards, higher on Brees rushing yards. Such a high. It's a high line, but whatever. Higher on ETN rushing yards. You know, like Pierce having a similar line to ETN is like, come on now. And Kamara, let's go higher on 5 catches for him. Tail if you'd like, guys. Looks like the Akers one got changed. It's not letting me do it. We'll refresh. Oh, it's even lower number now. Even better. 29.5. All right. If you want a tail at your own discretion. Again, this one is higher Cam Akers, 30 rushing yards, higher on Kamara receptions, higher on ETN rushing yards, higher on Brees Hall rushing yards, lower on Pierce rushing and receiving. I like this one. I mean, I'm a little worried about the Brees one. It's just a high number, but he can get there on some explosive runs. He's off the bye. Should see fully unleashed Brees. ETN, I just think they're just going to have so many rushing attempts that only needs to break a couple runs to get there. Kamara, dude's getting peppered in targets. Just need him to catch, half of them. And need this game to be not wonky. Kamara or Akers, again, this is shorting Madison and hoping that mini trend we saw is legit and that the Packers don't get up big, I guess. And then the Pierce is, again, betting on the role increase that we saw for Singletary and shorting Pierce. So let's make one more pick 5 here. Get some water. All right. Trying to think of some of my favorite lines. Trying to give some winners. My favorite thing to say on this show. Just letting the lobby wash over you. Okay. Let's get a Downs receiving yards in there. Good slot matchup for Indy. Get a lower on the Madison rushing yards. Whoa, this just mega jumped. It was 44.5. Now it's at 48.5. No, we cannot accept that. We cannot just add 4 yards, 10%. So we'll see if that one changes. Let's go over on Nico. He's just been very good. This is low line for an alpha. Tankdale has been too. You just hope the coaching staff isn't like, this game, we're only running the ball. Yes, this is some negative correlation, but it also can be positive correlation. Betting on a team to pass the ball. These are 2 of the these numbers are moving on me too. These 2 are very highly rated in ESPN's analytics, like literally some of the best wideouts in the league. Let's get higher on Ayuk. Let's go higher on Kelsey. Okay, just some minor movement on Nico and Tank. Okay, guys, we're in there. Tail if you'd like. Hopefully we made some winners. This is lower on Madison, 46.5 rushing yards. Higher on Nico. Higher on Tank. Higher on Ayuk. Higher on Kelsey. If you didn't like the particular ones I chose, I talked about most players in the lobby. Also, just betting under on rushing and receiving touchdowns is a viable thing to do in my mind if you want to do a slip like that. Like whoever's, like Tony Pollard's getting one, you can just bet lower on. So you can make a slip like that. All right. So that concludes the pick'em component of the program. Let's talk about a little best ball land. Getting my Discord here. Link to join that is in the YouTube description below. Go into the best ball resource thing here. Man, I mean, on Kincaid, look, I had some haters. I had some friends in the industry who were acting as haters, Oh, Kincaid's played 5 games. Let's give up on the rookie. Come on now. You got to have some context out there. I thought this was what got me so onto Kincaid. He was drafted in the first round to a good team. He has tight end eligibility. Every single training camp report was incredibly positive. Every single one. We know it's a good team. Ambiguous target competition, like Diggs, Alpha. Knox, nothing to worry about. Davis, deep A-dot guy. Although last night he was kind of playing like Knox, getting some short stuff. And so it's just I viewed it as a cheaper version of JSN, Jordan Addison, whatever, with tight end eligibility. That's a smash to me. And so that's why, if we look at my exposures, Kincaid is my highest drafted player. It's going to be fun to track what a touchdown does to him to my advance rates. And yeah, I mean, people were giving me shit. Like, yeah, we have like random internet trolls being like, oh, Kincaid's never going to get there, dude. As if I have not played best ball pretty seriously the past couple of years. Tournament professional, somewhat. You had, someone sent me a timestamp of the ship chasing crew. They're like, it's a win. Either Kincaid is awesome or Liam will cope tweet, So there were some haters out there, but they're going to have to eat it. They're going to have to eat some humble pie because I think the Kincaid breakout is here. And let's look at the tight ends. Look at, what can he seriously set his sights on? If we go to a tweet I did, over his past 2 games, he's averaging 6.5 catches, 70 yards, and half a touchdown. Which, if that was his full 17-game pace, this is nearly like Travis Kelce numbers. That would be 104 catches, 1120 receiving yards, and 8 touchdowns. And I think what should be exciting about Buffalo is he got there. Davis got there last night. Diggs got there. I mean, did Diggs give you 30? No. But he got you 16, 17 PPR points. And so a lot of weeks, I think what it will be is Diggs will get his, and then one of Davis or Kincaid will get there. But it's exciting that he's getting there with everyone else. I also think that James Cook is not dead. Some weeks James Cook will have some spikes. It's probably like in order of raw targets, it should go Diggs 1, obviously, and then maybe Kincaid 2. Unless what they did last night is Gabe Davis blocked so much that they gave him some wide receiver screens, some short A-dot roll. That was like Gabe Davis had a historical catch game, his highest amount of catches in the game last night. Shakir had his best game as a pro last night too. Shakir, the Shakir thing is weird because the coaching staff clearly didn't like this guy that much. He was good as a rookie, and then the Bills signed John Brown and Cole Beasley off the street to play over him in the playoffs. And so that was incredibly negative signal. And then they they signed legit competition in Sherfield and Hardy. But last night, he was the clear slot. He blocked his ass off the game before, which is good. And the Bills, they want people to be able to block. Did I just hear Liam recommend to eat? I can't win with the Kincaid thing because if I made if he smashes, Liam's bragging about him having a great pick, as if I didn't tell people to, just draft the guy. And if he failed, it would be like, oh, look at this guy. He took 50% of this guy. Not recognizing like the bet in Best Ball Mania is whatever. Although I took a lot of Kincaid in high stakes too. So, looking at the rookies, would I rather have Kincaid or JSN on my team? Kincaid or Quentin Johnston. Obviously, Kincaid there. You'd prefer Puka. You probably prefer Addison. Although it's close if Kincaid's going to have this type of production. So yeah, it's fun, and me tweeting a lot about Kincaid is a little bit for the haters, When you have some haters, you got to give them some fuel. Them just doing the Arthur emoji in their house. They're so mad. Addison won. Yeah, let's look at it. Let's look at where Kincaid. And like when I had the Kincaid-ervention episode with Karain, that's when Kincaid was at his cheapest. That's when it was most egregious to me. Because he was like a 13th round pick back then. Which, if I had just kept my mouth shut about, maybe he would have stayed around there. My advance rates went up a lot last night. Obviously, with heavy Bills exposure. This is inflated. This is that'd be advancing 40 teams out of 150. I was at 31 before the games. So maybe we'll settle in at 35. Really depends what happens this week. If Pollard and Jamar Chase have a good game, maybe it goes up. But if we look at a team, so this team was drafted very late. So let's see where Kincaid went here. Let's just look at the draft board. And honestly, I think Kincaid coming for Hawkinson's not off the table. Him coming for Waller's not off the table. Him coming for Kittle, he already seems more consistent than Kittle. Obviously, he's past Pitts. So here he went in the 9th round. I got Kincaid and Mostert, which is just the nuts. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of Mostert. But by this time, it was like, okay, Mostert's going to be a smash. Who would you rather have in the 9th round? No one. Pat Freiermuth, big bust. David Njoku. See, Njoku's like, if you're taking Njoku and Freiermuth over Kincaid, you were making historical tight end bets. Kincaid was the swing at upside. And we know that you should swing at upside. I smashed this draft. Obviously, it's advancing. Kincaid coming from Andrews, not really off the table either, but I'm not ready to go there yet. I'm excited to see the sample size increase. Kincaid so far has been crushing zone defense. But not a lot of teams play man. And we saw what he can do against man against their very good linebacker last night. Addison is not good at football. Is this you saying that? Okay, well, you can not be good at football or whatever you want to think, but his role is awesome. He's a deep ADOT guy, and he's attached to an awesome passing game that we want. Yeah, I didn't have as much Addison as I thought I was taking. I do have a lot of Gabe Davis, so let's see. How did it go here? Let's just revisit some of these rounds. The answer in the 4th round was to take Brees or Kenneth Walker or Ayuk. Mike Williams was a smash. He got hurt. Watson, we'll see, man. I'm leaving the light on. The answer in the 5th round, Kirk, Hawk, Gabe Davis. Everyone else, not so good. In the 6th round, Pickens is fine. I'm leaving the light on for JSN, but hard to return 6th round draft capital. James Cook, I'm leaving the light on as a spike week. I'd prefer him to Madison. Him versus Javonte, I'm not sure. Godwin's fine. Mike Evans has been a smash so far. Flowers has been good. Addison at the top of the 7th, smash. Montgomery, smash pick. Pittman, a good pick. Swift is a smash. Pitts is not going to return cost, but if he spikes in the playoffs, there you go. Sky Moore, mega bust. White's whatever. QJ, pretty big bust, but I'm leaving more of a light on for QJ than Sky. Hollywood Brown, man, the casuals dropping Hollywood Brown was just like so clear that was going to happen, and they didn't learn their lesson from Amari Cooper last year. Hollywood's been fine. You know, he's not been like a killing the game or anything, but Burks bust, Cook bust, Moore bust, Kamara, league winner probably. I don't have a lot of him. Herbert is fine. He's hurt though. Pacheco fine. Bateman bust. Gibson pretty big bust. Michael Thomas fine. Charbonnet, you know, like bust so far to date, but he's like you know, I'm not dealing him a death blow or anything because we know what he needs to succeed. Ken Walker injury probably. And if he shows out with Ken Walker, if Ken Walker gets ruled out this week against a tough Cleveland a tough Cleveland defense who you can beat on the ground more, it's not impossible that he makes it more of a 1A, 1B going forward. Or even he could be 1A. Who knows? Tony, bust. Ingram, good pick. Richardson, great pick, but bad result. Prescott, kind of a bust so far, but he's fine. Jones, kind of a bust so far. Freiermuth, bust. Kincaid, you know, slow rookie, but looking like a smash now. Brian Robinson is a fine pick. Tua is a great pick. Dobbs is a bust to me, but like he's done okay so far. Dylan, pretty big bust. Warren has been fine. He's not doing anything crazy. Njoku, pretty busty, but you know, he's a tight end. See, the tight ends are more gentle, right? Like who's drawing more live to return cost, Njoku or Dobbs? I'll take Njoku there. Mostert, slam dunk, league winner. P. Ryan busty, McKinnon light on for end of the season. Bigsby busty, but you know, again, ETN goes down. He's like Charbonnet to me. OBJ, kind of busty. Nico, league winner. Boyd, busty. Zay Jones has been hurt. Mims, you know, slow rookie. Talent's there. We'll see. Jamal busty. Jameson Williams, been slow. He's looking like an okay pick. We'll see how it goes. He could have had a touchdown against Baltimore too. Rashad Penny's been a bust, but Rashad Penny is like, you know, Deontay Foreman was a 0 so far. And I'm leaving the light on for Rashad Penny still. Has he helped you so far? No, he's been a bust to date. But he's a guy who could totally define fantasy playoffs if he's on the field. I don't know what's going on between Devin and Chris, but they're fighting in the chat. Gino, it's not been great. Juju, mega bust. Rashee Rice is a great pick. Achane, a league winner. Cousins is a great pick. Lazard is a bust, but, you know, Rodgers injury. Mitchell, kind of a bust, but, you know, who knows if CMC goes down. Rodgers got hurt. Goff is good. Schultz, bust. No, Schultz not bust. Schultz had a bunch of touchdowns. Schultz is good. He's been like sun running touchdowns, but Myers, league winner. Higbee, busty. And now we're getting cheap. So, Yeah, so that's a draft board from late in the season. If we take I don't know. Let's look at this July 19th draft board real quick. What round do you think Kincaid goes next year if he ends up having the year he's on track to have? It's so hard to say, man. I'm going to be interested on will the market leapfrog him over Kittle or over Hawk? And it really depends how tight end as a whole is doing and what happens to Kelsey. Like if Kelsey gets hurt at the end of the year or retires, that is going to have like a cascading effect on tight ends. Where like he kind of has like an anchor effect right now with him in the first, where it's like you can't have Kelsey in the first and Andrews in the fifth, you know? But if Kelsey's not there, the market might just be like, we're not taking any tight ends until this pick, which would push Kincaid down a little bit. But like if we pretend that this is the market next year, which it won't be, I don't know, 4th, 5th round, you know? It's like, who would you rather have? The Steelers, maybe wide receiver 1, or the Bills pass catcher 2, who's a tight end? As in Deontay versus Kincaid. Especially in half-point PPR. The answer's clear to me. So on July 19th, I did not get Kincaid in this one, unfortunately. Took Damian Harris trying to get both. Oof, man. Damian Harris has been a guy tanking me. Kincaid was an 11th round pick. Now he's going around guys like Chig, mega bust. Greg Dulcich, mega bust. So yeah, back when he was cheap, slam dunk. McCole Hardman has some life now. Josh Downs, great pick here. Let's look at a couple more things before I get out of here for the day. If you guys have any questions, let me know. What's the difference with Ken Walker and ETN? What do you mean by that, Brandon? Oh, because I don't get why y'all feel Zach will play so much. Walker's banged up, man. He's got a hamstring injury, so he might not play. That's the big difference. Also, Tank Bigsby has looked like he's actively bad, whereas Zach Charbonnet might be good, you know? Real quick, I want to show people. Someone asked me on Twitter, like, obviously Kincaid's advance rate, or really any team's advance rate, is going to be partially due to correlation as a part to them just contributing points. So if you want to calculate how much an individual player is advancing versus so someone asked me like, okay, was Kincaid is advancing at 25% right now. And Allen is advancing at 44% right now. Obviously, these are like really inflated because only they've played this week. But Allen and Kincaid are advancing at 50%. But you could add up these numbers and then subtract them, and that would tell you how many just the players advancing. So I'm advancing 65% of my Allen teams right now. That number won't hold, but that's pretty crazy for a league quarterback. Kincaid, I'm advancing 30%. So like not that much, honestly. But what's the future look like for some of these? Man, this was such a slam dunk team. RIP to them. Davis is another guy I drafted a lot of. And this is like the Gabe Davis thesis, is he's going to give you a lot of touchdowns. He's up to 6 on the year, I think. You know? And like that's just like the quintessential best ball guy. He is a killer advance rate guy by himself. He's advancing more than Kincaid right now. I wonder why exactly that is. I think it's just the touch, because he's obviously been more expensive, but it's I think it's just him standalone has been awesome. All right, guys, that's what we got today. Hope you hit on any pick'em slips you make this weekend. Have a good luck for your best ball portfolio or anything like that. I'll be back at the latest by next Tuesday for the Best Ball Mania for Leaderboard show. Gonna have Justin Herzig on next week to talk about our small side bet for BBM. He had a little bit of a lead on me. We have leverage on each other, where it's like I have a lot more AJ Brown than him. I have a lot more Tony Pollard than him. He has a lot more Devontae Adams than me. I have a ton of Kyron Williams. He has none. So that one was helping me for a bit. He's got a lot more Raheem Mostert than me. So that's a negative for me. He's got more Keenan Allen than me. So it's fun to look through the leverage on each other. And he's got a lot more Jefferson. I have a lot more Jamar Chase. That should help me a little bit. Although JJ, I'm expected to come back. So hit the like, hit the subscribe, join the Discord. Enjoy your weekend. Peace out, guys.